Welcome, class, to the Intro to Java Programming. In this lesson, we will review many ways to convert the value of one data type to another data type. We have touched upon some of these in prior lessons, but we'll cover more specifics on conversions with collections. You should be aware that the code you work on will be shared by many other developers. The classes and methods written may be suited for a specific data type. However, a downstream process may need the data converted to another type. Converting data types will be unavoidable. We covered converting primitives with boxing and casting in the previous lesson. Let's talk more about the non-primitive conversions, including the four popular collections: array, ArrayList, hashset, and hashmap. The first non-primitive example is the string. Let's go to our basics project in IntelliJ. Let's close any open class tabs. You should already have a package called converter. Let's create a new class called Type Conversion Test. Let's make some space, copy in our first test, import in these classes. These two tests should look familiar from lesson 6 on strings. This test is an example of converting an int to a string. This test is an example of converting a string to an int. Remember, if the string value contains non-numeric characters, the converted value will generate a number format exception error. Let's run both tests. Passes. Passes. Let's change this value to 73AB. Let's run this test. Notice the number format exception error. Let's take this AB out, run it again, and it passes. If you recall from lesson 8, this test will convert a local date to a string. The date time formatter will allow you to control the format returned to the string variable. Remembering all the date conversion characters can be difficult. Fortunately, you could just search for Java date format characters. There are plenty of sites that will list all the conversion characters. Here's a list of some common conversion characters. Back inside the code, let's run this test. And it passes. Also from lesson 8 is the opposite test, converting a string to a local date. Again, the date time formatter is used to define the string format of the date. The local date is parsed from the string variable and the date format. If we run this test, it should pass. Let's cover a few common examples of converting a string to an array. This test will convert each character of a string into an array of characters. The .toChar array method will create an array using each character from the supplied string value. The string value has 9 characters including the space. This test will see if the letter J is found in index position 6. If we run this test, it should pass. Sure. In this string to array test, we will use the .split method on the string value for every space character found. The value found in regexp is how the string value will be split apart. Regex, or regular expression, is a special text string used for describing a search pattern. In this case, we are searching for a single space character. Notice that there are 4 spaces in the string value. That means these 5 words will be placed into the string array variable. The space is not included in the result. The word with will be found in index number 2. Let's run this test. And it passes. Here is a similar example where we split a string by commas. Instead of spaces, we are looking for commas to determine each word in the array. Let's run this test. And it passes. Let's cover a few common examples of converting an array to an array list and a set. Here is an example of converting an array to an array list. We create an array of strings. The method arrays.asList will convert the array parameter into a list of strings. We will test the size and one specific value. Let's run this test. And it passes. Here is the reverse, converting an array list to an array. In this part of the test, we create an array list of strings and add a few elements. Here we use the .toArray method of the list and pass in the string list variable as a new string array. The end result is an array with 5 elements, and we can test a specific value to prove it worked. Let's run this test. And it passes. Confused about the conversion commands? Let's do a quick review. There are 2 key methods, arrays.asList and .toArrays. Arrays.asList method is commonly used to convert an array to a list. In some cases, the array is a variable, and in other cases, it is a parameter of arrays. The .toArray method is not commonly used, but will convert a list or a set to an array. You will notice variations of these 2 commands repeated in the following examples. This test will convert an array to a set. Here we create an array variable. This command will create a new hash set with the supplied string array using the arrays.asList method. The end result is a set with 5 elements. Let's run this test. And it passes. Here is the reverse, converting a set to an array. This single line will create and initialize a set of integers with 5 values. Here we will create an object array by calling the sets.toArray method. The result will be an array with 5 elements. Let's run this test. And it passes. Let's cover a few common examples of converting an array list to a set. This test will convert an array list to a set. Here the string list is created and initialized with 5 elements. This command will create a new hash set with the supplied array list. We can test to prove there are 5 elements in the string set variable. Let's run this test. And it indeed passes. And the reverse test, convert a set to an array list. Here we create a set and initialize with 5 elements. On this line we create a list of strings with the new array list and pass in the string set as a parameter. 5 elements should be found in the string list variable. Let's run this test. And it passes. Why are there no examples of the map yet? Time for a Coach Joe challenge question. Up until now we've talked about and provided examples for converting arrays, array lists, and sets. What is the problem with converting a map to an array, array list, or set? Correct. The map holds a key and a value where the array, array list, and set only hold a single value. It does not make sense to place 2 values into one. What can be done is placing either the key or the value into one of these collections. The same is true for putting one data element of an array, array list, or set into a map. Should be placed in the key or the value. Either way, the map entry is incomplete. Let's see a few examples of placing part of a map into another collection. I have a private method that builds a map used for our final 3 conversion tests. This method will return a hash map of player names by jersey number. This test will convert the key and the value of the map into separate arrays. We create the map here. This line will use the map's .keySet method to collect all the keys from the map. The .toArray method is used to hold the integer values in the new array. The same is true for the values. The map's .value method will return all the values from the map. Again, the .toArray method will create the new string array. We can test to prove that there are 6 elements in each array. Let's run that test. And it passes. The use of the .keySet and .values methods are very common when working with maps. Please remember these for future reference. This test will convert the key and the value of a map to separate array lists. We create the map here. These 2 lines will create separate lists for the map's key using the .keySet method and the map's value using the .values method. We can test the size of each array list to prove there are 6 elements. Let's run this test. It passes. And this final test will convert the key and the value of a map to a set. Again, we create the map here. These 2 lines will create separate sets for the key and the value. Notice the use of .keySet method and .values method. The size of each set is tested for 6 elements. Let's run this test. It passes. Converting one data type to another may require additional research from time to time. Here's a summary of all the test code we wrote for this lesson. There is no easy summary of all the collection conversions. However, there are some common conversions you will likely use. There will be other conversions that are uncommon and possibly an indication of poorly designed code. The two most common conversions are the use of the maps .keyset and .values methods, normally to create a list of keys or values. The other common conversion is the use of arrays.asList method to create a list. Since the map and the list are the most popular collections, it makes sense these conversions will be used the most. Converting to a set is not as common, and converting to an array is even less common. Unless there's a specific purpose for converting to a set or an array, you may want to question the code design to verify the proper solution. You should now have an understanding of converting some non-primitives including string to local date and local date to string. Several tests were written that converted a popular collection to another collection type. Some conversions are more common than others. There may be more possible conversions not covered and additional research may be needed. In our next lesson, we will cover object or data structure. Remember, future senior developers, make it work, prove it works, then make it better. Ready? Break!